Welcome to the Dark Ascent podcast, where we enter into the deepest secrets of black magic and the left-hand path. This is episode 10, Building a World of Thought Forms, Part 2. To learn more about our work, please visit darkascent.org. Hey everyone, welcome to our podcast. This is Melektoth, as always, and I'm here with my wife, Elinara.
Hi.
And this week, this is an extension of last week's episode on building a world of thought forms, obviously. And last week, we talked about exactly what are thought forms. We talked a little bit about egregores and gods and so on and so forth. But the topic got a little away from us, so we are continuing it this week, because what I really want to discuss this week is more about exactly what gods are, more than just egregores, a little more discussion of how that works, and why precisely you would choose to work with, let's say, a god or an angel or a demon or any astral being like that. Okay, so we'll get into that a little bit, because a lot of people just want to work with universal energy itself, and they might ask, why would I choose to work with one of these beings, or what do I do if a being comes to me? Because that's what happened to me. Hades came to me. I didn't really get much of a choice. I got a choice, but when you have a Greek god on your doorstep, metaphorically speaking, what do you do?
Can't turn them away.
So you don't really turn down an opportunity like that. So
I know this is really way far out there, but it's you don't entertain, or the way you don't entertain strangers in the wrong way because they could be disguised as angels.
Right, yeah, exactly. Yeah, and that was a really popular thought, back in the day, and that's, I kind of like that. So
I do too. And I've heard of that kind of thing happening actually in human form.
Sure.
You want to be careful.
Definitely. So just to summarize a little bit, we talked about last week how thoughts are really thought forms where they always exist. At the moment you think them, either they already exist in another form, or you are creating them anew, which is not that common unless it's coming from inspiration. But you're creating them anew, and now they are thought forms. A little bit of not a modification, but a clarification of that just really came to mind, is that what are these new thoughts? New thoughts, I would say, are always the product of inspiration, meaning that universal energy is flowing through those thoughts. They're feeling really good. They are inspiring to you. They feel really awesome. You feel happy while thinking them. So these new thoughts, because this is what we talk about when we talk about the expansion of the universe, are thoughts of inspiration, of happiness, of joy, and those sorts of things. The old thought forms that are just sort of hanging around in the astral and that we sometimes, or not sometimes, but often receive, those are sort of old thought forms that were, made up by mankind and have been around for a long time. But these sort of fresh thoughts are coming directly from universal energy. And the reason I say this, I don't remember what this course was called, but I took a course a while ago that was really about, it was really fascinating. It was basically about leaving room for new thoughts to come in. So if you are stuck in a situation, basically it was saying to remove yourself from the thoughts of that situation, which is just like the old thought forms, and allow something new to be created. And I've just talked about how from uncertainty new things are generated, and this is sort of what we're talking about. But I think that's important to realize, because this is, we're always moving towards the positive and towards the expansion of the universe. And so when you do give room for that to happen, that's what you get. You get, from the zero state, or from the state of infinite possibilities, you get these thoughts directly from the source or from the universe that are there to kind of bring you along, towards your goals, towards your desires. So I think that's an interesting point to discuss.
Right.
Okay, so we talked about thought forms, and, that some thought forms are purely of our making, and a lot of them are also imbued by the essence of the universe, the universal energy we talk about. So one thing here to discuss, Elinara and I were discussing this quite extensively even after the podcast.
Yes.
Probably about an hour afterwards.
Oh, yeah.
And one thing we were discussing was morality. And I mentioned last time that there's no good or evil. Okay, I don't want to say good or evil. I will say light and dark because there is a light and dark, and I'll talk about this a little bit more. But I don't want to say good or evil. I will also say positive or negative because that does exist.
But wouldn't good or evil exist because it's like positive or negative, or
No.
it's the same kind of opposites?
No, because good and evil is something that is sort of made up by us. And in fact, I want to read off a quote. I'm a huge fan of the Tao Te Ching. So there's this quote in there all about actually morality and good and evil. So I'm going to read this quote. So the Tao Te Ching really talks about this quite extensively, about there not being good or evil, or talking about good and evil is actually quite limiting. So this is from chapter 38. And this translation is from Stephen Mitchell. This is my favorite translation. So I'm not going to read the whole chapter because it's not all pertinent, but these are the two sort of paragraphs, or I don't know what you call them, stanzas, or whatever you want to call them. Anyway, here it is though. The kind man does something, yet something remains undone. The just man does something, and leaves many things to be done. The moral man does something, and when no one responds, he rolls up his sleeves and uses force. When the Tao is lost, there is goodness. When goodness is lost, there is morality. When morality is lost, there is ritual. Ritual is the husk of true faith, the beginning of chaos. So that, to me, is exactly what I'm talking about. There's no morality. Because morality is only needed when you're not plugged into the universe. When you're not... I don't think it's ever needed, but people only resort to morality when they're not really connected to the source of things, to the universe, to the universal energy that flows through everything. So, kind of clarify what that was saying, in my opinion, is that when you don't have the Tao is sort of like the flow, the universe, the all. But when you don't have that, they say when you lose the Tao, you have goodness. So goodness is this lower idea. When you don't have goodness, you have morality, which is even a lower idea. When you don't have morality, you have ritual, which is a lot of religion is just a bunch of ritual. And the ritual is the husk of true faith. It's empty. And so no, it's not morality. And it's not good or evil, because there's truly no judgment. And I think I talked about this last week a little bit, where I said that it's not that the universe judges if you're in a negative place. It doesn't, because judgment would be a negative emotion. But it's in such a positive, free, abundant, joyful place that it just literally can't participate in your negative thoughts, in your thoughts of disalignment. Okay, it just can't participate in that because, there's such a vibrational gap there that it can't participate. And so because it's not participating, it feels really negative to you. And that's how you can tell that you're out of alignment with the universe. So, but this has nothing to do with good or evil. What would that even mean? What good does it do to say, oh, I'm feeling anxious? Oh, that's evil. That's immoral. No, it doesn't make any sense. Or what sense does it make to say, okay, well, to be moral, I have to do these actions. I have to be good, and I have to not steal, and I have to go to church or something like that. You know what I mean? Like, what's the point of that? There are no rules to the Tao or to the flow or whatever you want to call it. There are no rules because it's all in the flow. It's all in the effortlessness.
So people who kill.
Yeah, so this is what I want to talk about, is that when, no, there's no judgment. And that's period, end of story. There's no judgment. Everything is okay. But obviously there are people in a lot of pain. There are people who are very, 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 very negative and out of alignment.
For sure.
And, I sort of talked about curses last week a little bit also. And this is sort of goes along those same lines, where when you curse someone, yeah, it can work, but you're plugging into that same energy that you want to send to them. And so you're going to be affected. You can't, let's say, kill someone and be happy. Now, people might say, yeah, but they say they take joy out of it. No, they don't. They say that. But what I'll tell you is that in their powerless state, the state of rage or hatred does feel better to them. It does. For the moment.
But then why do they keep doing it, right? That's why they keep
That's
doing
why
it.
they keep doing it, because they're in that state of powerlessness, and they're relying on action to alleviate their state of powerlessness. So let's say they kill someone, and that feels better because it's sort of like a, instead of powerlessness, which is like at the absolute bottom of the spectrum of emotions, now they're maybe in hatred or rage, okay, or even revenge if it's like a revenge killing. But now after that's done, well, now they don't have that action to get them there anymore, so now they're back in their default state of powerlessness. So now they have to do it again or find some other way of doing, of getting there, which is what they should do. And so that's why it can kind of, to some people, become addicting. They keep doing it, like serial killers and so on.
That makes sense.
Right, because... and that's why it feels good to them. But once they get past that point, let's say they go to prison and they have time to reflect on things, and now not everyone does this. Some people just remain in powerlessness forever because they are playing the victim and they're blaming other people and the government and so on and so forth. But let's say someone really considers what they did and they feel bad about it, and then they want to move up into higher emotions, and now they do not feel good about that anymore because it's actually lower than where they were. Okay, so that sort of thing is like super, 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 super negative, obviously. And you should never rely on actions to get you into a higher vibrational place, because even if it's, let's say, I knew someone once who was very poor, and she admitted to me once that she would sometimes shoplift.
Oh, I know who you're talking
because
about.
she didn't believe that she had the abundance to buy her necessities, and so she would shoplift. And I told her, I said, as long as you're doing this, you're not going to get out of the situation, because it's not the actions of an abundant person to shoplift.
She was not happy with you.
She wasn't. And I'm not trying to moralize. I'm not saying it was wrong. What I'm saying is it's not helpful, because she's relying on action to substitute for vibration, but it's just going to hold you there. So what action is always actually going to do, and this is a little off topic, so I won't go there too much. What action is always going to do, you want it to relieve your vibrational state. Sort of like how I talked about you quit a job to get away from a bad job, and then you start another one that's sort of the same. So what action is always going to do is just affirm and validate your vibrational state. It will create more of it. It won't alleviate it long term. So if you steal, if you kill, if you even, let's say you take drugs or alcohol or something to kind of alleviate it, it's just going to put you right back where you were. So that's why that, but again, there's no immorality, because again, what would be the use of that, right? There'd just be no use for that. But the point I want to make, I've learned this. A lot of the things I talk about here are things I've learned through personal experience over many, many years of exploration and study. I try not to teach things that are just hearsay that I get from others. Sometimes I will study a new concept but then I have to study that and then integrate it into my own stuff, and it'll change a lot before it gets anywhere. But anyway, what I learned over the years was that the universe is highly amoral. What I mean by amoral is not moral, or where morality is not an issue, is not part of its fabric. And this surprised me when I first learned about it, because every religion says you have to be good. I mean, Christians have the 10 Commandments and so on and so forth, as do Jews, and Muslims have their own, same sort of thing, and the, principles of the Quran and stuff. Hindus have the yamas and niyamas that they follow. Buddhists have like the 4 noble truths.
Yep.
And stuff.
Eightfold Path,
yeah. I know there's like right living and right speaking. I don't remember all of them. Every religion has this set of rules, which again, as I read from the Tao Te Ching, it's not super in favor of.
Yeah.
Morality is like the lowest form, just barely above ritual.
Because basically, you're listening to what other people tell you to do.
Right, you're not going to be in the flow.
Yeah, and you're not figuring out for yourself what's moral and immoral to you, because what we might think is really bad isn't for the culture. For example, Eskimos. And I don't know much about the story, but they sometimes will kill their babies.
Because they don't have, or they're elderly too.
Yeah.
Because if they don't have the resources to feed them, then it'll actually hurt the whole tribe if they keep them.
Right.
So they kind of put them outside to freeze, I think. And that's sort of a necessity they have to do. But anyway, so I learned the universe is highly amoral. And I was going to say this bothered me, but truthfully, it really didn't. It was odd. I'll say it was odd. It didn't really bother me as such because it sort of made sense intuitively.
Yeah.
But
it was a weird concept.
It's a weird concept because, again, pretty much all religions have a concept of right and wrong, good and evil, and that kind of thing. But in my experience, the universe just didn't. So, it started out because every time I studied a lot of different religions growing up. Okay. And I would leave a religion and I would think to myself, oh, because I would believe in actually a God, so to speak. I would say, oh, God's going to punish me for leaving this religion and the blessings I've received are going to dry up. Nope. Nothing happened. Okay, so that's explainable because you could say, well, the universe doesn't care what religion you are. So that's true enough. But then, this is always hard to discuss because people like to judge things. I would do things that, to me, I didn't necessarily have a problem with, but to others, they might see it as immoral. Okay? I might, cheat on a test or something because they always let me use my computer.
Yeah.
And so if I was really stuck on something, I would look up the answer. I would have the resource to look up the answer, something like that.
And nobody knew.
No one never knew, never got caught. And, that wasn't I didn't rely on that. It was mostly when I was really down low and feeling kind of depressed and I just really wanted a good grade. So I did what I had to do. And again, should I have done it? Maybe not. It was more honest not to. But I did, and I never, you'd think, oh, well, if the universe is moral, then you're going to get in trouble for that. You're going to have a bad karma come back and get you. No, never. There were instances where things happened that, in my opinion, no fault of my own, but just bad things would happen where other people would get hurt, and I would kind of feel bad about it and think, something bad's going to happen to me for this. I had a business some years ago that ended in a horrible, horrible way. And it was not, I know I manifested it somehow, but physically speaking, it wasn't my fault. I got kind of betrayed by someone else who hacked into my systems and deleted everything. And so a lot of customers got hurt for it and, got a lot of flack for that. Anyway, and I'm like, that certainly is going to be, I'm going to get some bad karma for that because a lot of people had websites on there that, and I had nothing to give them, no data. And nothing ever happened. And in fact, the more I worried about it, the more bad did happen. But as I let it go, it just went. And so I used to believe in this idea of karma, but after things like that happened, I just didn't. Or last example, one of my jobs in the past, again, I was sort of I was in a place where I really did not like the job, so I wasn't really giving 100%, and I would slack a lot. And, people might say, oh, they're paying you to do work, and so on. And, I think that if you should enjoy the work you do, and if you do, you'll want to do the work, and so you won't do this. But I wasn't plugged into the job, and I think they manifested some of it too because they just weren't a very good company.
Well, and they, the way their structure was, you could slack.
Oh, yeah.
You really could.
Yeah. So I did a lot of that before I quit, and wasn't super proud of it, but again, it felt good in the moment because I sort of needed that. I was stressed out. I needed that sort of disconnect or that escape to plug back into the universe. And so I thought, well, this is wrong, and so I'm going to get punished. Nope, didn't get punished.
Well, just like the week you recently had.
Yeah, that was work-sanctioned slacking.
Yeah, it was. It really was.
I was doing a week of just effortlessness, and my work sort of said, oh, we have no more tasks for you, so have fun. I'm on salary, so I get paid for it. So it was interesting in that way. But, things like that over the years would happen. I'm not saying those things should have happened or shouldn't have. I mean, I know Byron Katie always talks about there's no should or shouldn't. But I'm not saying I would do those things over again or wouldn't. I mean, who knows? But what I'm saying is in the moment, I thought this is definitely wrong. But I need to do this because of whatever. And never got any negative karma from that. So I just don't believe in karma. I don't believe in negative karma. I do believe that if you are negative, you will get negative stuff in return. But these things I did were all things that felt good to me in the moment. They were things that brought relief to me. And so nothing bad happens. So in my experience, the universe is amoral.
Yeah.
I just can't fathom otherwise, because and the fact that there are so many people who are super successful, super rich, and so on and so forth, who do things that, just, I don't want to get political, but how much people dislike Trump, and he probably, it sounds like, did things that were super immoral in the past, according to popular culture, popular norms and mores. Yet he's president, super successful, seems to be pretty happy. How can you explain that except for an amoral universe?
Yeah. Exactly.
So anyway, I mean, again, I don't want to get too deep, but the reason I point that out is because there's simply no such thing as a good god or an evil devil. It's simply no such thing.
No.
It's simply humanity doing its thing, and there's no such thing as good or evil. There is no such thing as right or wrong. There is light and dark, right? And the reason I'm talking about this, I know we're talking about gods and spirits, but the reason I'm talking about this is because people will fear demons, like they're going to, I don't know, corrupt them, or they're going to
possess them.
Yeah, possess them, or
against their
will, or do evil things to them. That simply doesn't exist. That simply doesn't exist.
It's that popular culture makes it like that.
Right. That simply doesn't exist. It's all you and your own standards, if you, whatever standards you set for yourself. And, in general, like, I believe it's most beneficial to do what brings you closer to joy.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes that may look immoral. Sometimes it may look like slacking at work when you just can't stand anymore. You can't stand any more of the environment or something. Sometimes it might look like that. So there's just no judgment, and the universe doesn't judge. And I know that for a fact just from my own experiences and from my own studies. But, so those things don't exist. And it's it's very freeing when you can look at your own life without judgment and not fear negative karma, not fear something bad happening after death or something, and just know that you're perfectly accepted no matter what you do or who you are or what happens, right? And once you can see through these fear-based images of Satan and Lucifer and these demons and so on and so forth that are just out to get you, once you can see through that, it's like, wait, what am I fearing? What am I fearing? Right, so that we can just throw away. It doesn't serve us, it's not helpful, it's not true, in my experience. So now we go talk about light and dark, because there are light and dark beings. But these concepts of light and dark have nothing to do with good or evil. Light and dark are sort of two sides of the same coin.
Yeah, that's a really interesting concept.
It is. And so, the way I see it is, in fact, this is sort of a way of explaining it lately that really makes sense to me, and I really like it. One of the quotes that I really like from Abraham Hicks, I'm paraphrasing part of it, but they say that the best attitude to have in regards to life is, and this is the quote, satisfied with what is and eager for more. So there's two parts to that, being satisfied with what you have, satisfied with what is, and then being eager for more, wanting something different than what you have. And I think this perfectly illustrates the balance between light and dark, because for me, light, which is like the Tao, the flow, that sort of thing, is being satisfied with what is. It's that surrender to what is, and embracing all and accepting all as it is right now. And being not just okay with it, but being satisfied with it, okay? This is sort of what a lot of like the right-hand path would call you to do. The thing is that they end there. They say, be satisfied with what is, period, don't have desire, just surrender and let it, the universe take control, and so on and so forth. But then you have the second part, which says, and eager for more. And that to me is the darkness. Because this is that, so if the light is the Tao, the dark is this urge to expand, to reach, to want more. Because when you really look at it, there's never going to be a time in life where you're just satisfied, period. There may be, when you reach a big goal, let's say you just get a new job and you're settling in, or you just buy a new house and then you're happy with that. There are times of expansion and then relaxation and you're just sort of settling in. But after a while, you sort of get restless and you say, okay, now what? And that now what is like the mantra of darkness, okay? Because it's saying, this is great, and I love it, but what else? Okay? And so that's where our desires come in. And that's where we say, okay, now I want more. I want more. And what else can I have? And, I want something above and beyond this. Maybe more money, maybe a better car, maybe a new job, so on and so forth. But I want more. So there's this drive, this urge for more. You're not really, I don't want to say allowed, but it's sort of like you're not really allowed to just rest in what you have, to rest and just be okay and satisfied with what is. I mean, you are, but then you also want more. And
a lot of people think that's a guilty thing.
Right, and a lot of religions sort of discourage that. Like, oh, just it's God's will. Just be happy with what you have and don't look for more and, shut down your desire. And that's the right-hand pathway, right? But we don't end there. We don't end with satisfied with what is. We recognize the nature of the universe is to expand, is to reach for more. And because we are extensions of that same energy, we have, I would say, both the light and the dark in us, and therefore we are always wanting to reach for more. So that's the darkness. And I say it's darkness because, it's the force of change. It's kind of dynamism, while light is more stasis. Light brings us to sort of more of what we have, while the darkness urges us to reach for more. It's also sometimes uncomfortable because when we reach for more, we don't have it yet. And so there's resistance and there's discomfort. And it's this sort of feeling of asking and yet not having. When you really get to balance these two forces, you sort of feel that momentarily, and then you accept that new growth, and then you go back into surrender and effortlessness, knowing that it will come, and enjoying that and being okay with that. So it's this eternal expansion that keeps going on. So this is this idea of light and dark, and they are equal and balanced, and we need both of them. Because if you were just eager for more, if you just, and this is what a lot of my clients do, you just want more and more and more, and so someone will come to me and say, yeah, I just want this relationship. I just want this job. And I hate where I am. They don't have the satisfied with what is. They shut out the light, right? And that doesn't work. Because you have to have both. You have to flow with the Tao in order to get what you want. So that's the light and dark. And there are beings of light and there are beings of dark. So I'm going to summarize. I'm going to reread the quote from Lucifer that I read last week, because I think it's extremely pertinent here. And this will bring us into working with gods and spirits and angels and demons and so on. So what he said was this: spirits are a composite of energy and form, just like humans. But the form is made of the thought of humans, and the energy comes from source. A spirit is energy clothed with form, much as a wave is water clothed with the form of the wave. So, again, that's showing that a spirit is the thought form plus the essence, the universal essence, the energy. The thought form is provided by us. That's why it says the thought of humans, of humanity. And the essence is provided by the universe, the Tao, And so that is what all spirits are made up of. And you have just the energy, which we can work with, which is just the raw essence. It'd be sort of like just working with water, versus the spirit, which is sort of like working with a wave, an individual wave of the ocean, or an individual droplet of water, let's say. Or if you dip in a bucket into the ocean, you come up with water. Well, that's water separate from the ocean in the container of the bucket, which is like our thought forms. But then you can just tip it out and the water goes right back in. So that's another good metaphor. And so, this is again how all spirits are: gods, angels, demons, elementals, whatever you want to, there are all sorts of different types of beings. And there are also, the reason I talked about all this stuff with morality and light and dark, I know it sort of seems like, why would you talk about that in this podcast, is because there are beings of light and beings of darkness, and they have different purposes. This is something I've just been realizing recently, because, for a while I was just like demons, 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 and they are honestly pretty cool. But I realized that there is sort of a balance to be had there. In fact, one of the experiences, I was trying to remember the exact context. I think I was doing healing for Elinara of some kind. And usually I would ask, let's say Lucifer or some other demon to help out with that. But
I remember
you remember this? And he said no. And I'm like, why? Okay. But once he said no, then I looked kind of past and I saw this group of angels that was wanting to come in. I'm like, oh, angels. Okay, well, I have no idea why, but whatever, have at it. Okay, come on in, angels. Like they came in and their presence, the presence of angels is totally different.
Yeah.
Totally different from that of demons. And I'll explain why in a few minutes. But, so they came in and I think it really helped her. And so, they knew that she needed that kind of help rather than what I was trying to offer. So there are different sorts of beings and they have different purposes, different roles. To hold yourself to just one or the other is sort of limiting. Okay, so, just it would be like holding yourself to light and not darkness or darkness and not light. It just doesn't work. Now, gods can sort of be a composite. Sometimes they're more light, sometimes they're more dark. Like Hades is more dark. I mean, he helped me get my desires, so definitely dark sort of thing. Many beings are more light. It just depends. So they're a little harder to categorize sometimes. But, angels and demons are sort of your, I don't want to say stereotypical, but, your standard definition of light and dark beings, right? Yeah. Angels are going to be light beings and demons are going to be dark beings. And in my opinion, even if you don't know it, sorry to say, you are always working with both. Why is that? Because you need both forces. So here's what I want to say. We have two broad topics I want to cover before the end of this podcast. And the first is that you're always working with universal energy, both light and dark, as you're working on manifesting or, performing some magic or whatever. Even if you don't even know you're manifesting or working magic, even if you just have a goal in life, you have some balance of light and dark. Now, most people probably are imbalanced there. They have either too much light where they're trying to surrender too much and give up their desires, or they have too much dark where they're so focused on their desires that they don't open up and allow them to come because they're so anxious about them and trying to make it happen. Okay, but everyone has a balance of both because we are beings of light and dark. We are composite beings. So, we're always working with those energies. And because of that, I described these energies as sort of the ocean. And really, are these separate energies? I mean, that's sort of a philosophical, metaphysical question that it's like, who knows? Sort of yes, sort of no. But they're two sides of the same coin. You could almost see them as two aspects of the same energy. And I know some people who will say, no, there's only one energy, But these are two, at least, aspects that I see. And I label them light and dark. And you can sort of label them whatever you like. But that's what works for me. And so when you work with these energies, you're working with the ocean. But what's contained in the ocean? A whole bunch of waves, a whole bunch of droplets, i.e., a whole bunch of beings in these energies. Now, if you remember from when I talked about quantum uncertainty, I said that you can work with either a wave or a particle. And, if you have a certain reality that either you like or you don't like, that's the particle state. And when you kind of look away from it and just let it be uncertain, it can be a wave. And so I use the same sort of metaphor with gods and with energies and so on. By the way, that's in episode 6 in case you haven't heard that one. But I use the same sort of metaphor with gods and such because you can work with the wave, which is like the whole universal energy of light and dark, or you can work with the particles, which is like the aspects of that wave, the aspects of that energy, which are these spirits, the particles, the individualized little bits of essence and thought form. Okay. And again, the thought form is kind of given by human thought, right? Through focus, they become thought forms, egregores, and so on. But that's how this happens. So you're always working with these beings because you're working with the entirety of the energy. Now the question is, why? Why would you want to work with a particular being? Why would I want to work with Hades? Why would I want to work with Lucifer or someone else? Anyone, whoever it might be for you. So I'm going to let Elinara get in her story. I wanted her to tell that because what happens is, just to kind of introduce the topic, we really do this all the time, like I said. And it could be as simple as if you know someone who's passed and you're working with their spirit, right? And they're, even if you don't know it, they're right there with you, focused on what you're doing, interested in what you're doing, and very possibly helping you in some sense. You know, and people who can really tune into that will see that. So go ahead, because there was a book you were reading that they had a story about that. I thought it was fascinating.
Yeah, I was reading a book called Chicken Soup for the Soul, a Book of Miracles. And they had a section on signs from beyond or whatever it was. And there was a story about this woman's sister who died, and her favorite color was purple, and she had children and her sister had children too. So they wanted to do this ritual of sending purple balloons up into the sky with messages all over them for the deceased sister, you know. And anyway, so at first they didn't want to fly up into the air because it was cold out. But eventually they all did, and they scattered in different directions. And every time something kind of, not bad, but when she was unsure about something, she'd see a purple balloon. Or she would say, Sue, what am I going to do? Because that was her name that died. And a minute later, there'd be a purple balloon flying. Like, this is months later, too.
Yeah.
And there would be these balloons everywhere, depending on the situation.
So it kind of became the sign.
Yeah, it was a sign.
Yeah.
And with, you know, her mother had been sick, you know, and they weren't sure, you know, which nursing home she should go in. And when they finally found one, which that was another ordeal, there was a purple balloon tied to the post.
Yeah.
Randomly.
That's awesome.
You know? And it's crazy things like that.
Yeah. So you are always working with these beings, even if you don't know it all the time.
Yeah.
And they are there helping you and interested in what you're doing. You know, I remember when my grandmother died.
Oh, I think I know what you're going to tell.
And, you know, I was a month away from getting married and never really interested in, like, cooking or baking. I didn't really do much of it.
You didn't do any of it.
I didn't do any of it. Well, I had in the past. A little bit. Very, very, very little bit. But I was thinking, okay, Elinara is not a cook. Well, she's got a lot better, but at the time she was not a cook. And I don't want to starve. Should probably learn. But anyway, you know...
This was a little bit before she died even at the start.
Yeah, that's right. It was a little before she died and then after as well. But one day I just got the inspiration. You know what? I'm going to make homemade bread. Now,
I couldn't believe it.
My grandmother was a great baker. Okay. Wonderful baker. But my mother did not take on that gift. She never really did any of that. My grandmother would make everything from scratch. And so I made bread one day, just sort of looked up a recipe randomly and just tried to make it.
Used my mom's recipe.
Did I? Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I called her.
And so I just, you know, I tried to make it. You know, it came out better than I expected. And I just kept trying different things. And I never got that inspiration before. And then the creepy thing is when my mother would try it, she said over the years, this tastes just like grandma's bread. And I'm like, that's creepy. I mean, it's just a random recipe. I don't know what her recipe was. I have no idea. But it just tastes like her bread. You know, so I had this sort of theory at the time, probably true, that, you know, even though, I mean, I don't remember the timeline, but I guess she hadn't quite died yet, but I think...
It was a week or two before.
Yeah, but I think she was, like, really close. She was disconnecting. I think there was an aspect of her that kind of wanted to pass on her gift, her talent, and, you know, so pass it on to me, because my mother had no interest, and I was close to getting married, so that's how I saw it.
Yeah, I think we both came to that conclusion, because... Yeah. Well, and it started with very simple French toast.
Yeah, I made French toast was the first thing I made.
And your mom loved it. I loved it, which, by the way, you should.
I know.
Anyway. He doesn't bake as much as I'd like him to.
I'm sorry. But yeah, I just started trying different things. And, you know, I think that she inspired me to do that and kind of gave me that gift, in a sense.
And it was very rare that you made something I didn't like.
Yeah.
So rare.
Yeah.
Maybe once or twice.
Yeah. And, you know, I had no previous experience. I just tried things out.
Well, just like yesterday, recently I was trying to make dinner, and I was trying to make crab cakes on the stove, and it just wasn't working out right. And I'm like, Melektoth, can you please come out here and see what I did and try to fix this.
Yeah.
And he did.
Yep.
But it was just, I don't have, and my mom also, both my parents love to cook too.
Yeah.
But I somehow didn't get the gene. My older sister is a better baker, and my younger sister is a better cook.
Yeah.
I didn't get either of that. I mean, I can taste and know what needs to go in something.
Yeah.
I'm good at spicing things, but cooking, forget it.
Yeah. Yeah, so it became very intuitive for me. I don't really know why. It just happened. But yeah, that was my theory. So you are working with spirits all the time.
Yeah.
If, for me, again, as I read in the quote from Lucifer, like spirits are just this composite of energy, which is an aspect of the universe, and thought forms, which shape that energy into a vessel. And so, but they are from energy. And so you're always working with different facets of the universe, which are basically spirits. So why would you choose to work with a specific one? Because, certain spirits have been used for ages, for millennia, to do certain things. And so it's sort of like, okay, let's say you have an aspect of universal energy that's about abundance and money and so on. Or you have an aspect that's about relationships, or you have an aspect that's about health, or about, whatever, any different topic. And this is kind of what happens where different spirits have certain specializations. And so they can help you sort of in a more specific way than maybe just working with the entire universal energy.
It's just like the Catholic idea of saints.
Yeah, exactly.
You don't just go to Joe Schmo who does everything. Sometimes you do have a jack of all trades, but it's not very common. But you wouldn't go to them, say, for an auto mechanic or for car work or something. Right. And you wouldn't ask that mechanic to do plumbing. Yeah, do plumbing.
Yeah.
Or to cook for you.
We switched
to be a chef.
Saints to mechanics really quickly, and I thought we had a saint mechanic, and I got lost. Anyway.
Didn't I make sense?
No, it was fine. No, but saints can specialize in different things. So
so that's what I was getting at.
Yeah. But yeah, so that's sort of how it works. And so you can have spirits who specialize in different things. Again, you're always working with spirits. And I sort of believe that those aspects of universal energy that are closest to your goal will automatically come and help. Yeah. And what you have to realize is that these spirits are here to help you, to serve you, to get your desire, to get whatever you want to get in life, to live the way you want to live. Okay?
That's just a big cosmic team.
Yeah, exactly. That's just how the universe works. It's all supportive. Okay? And some people will say, oh, no, there are spirits that are harmful and there are spirits that are, well,
not that there aren't ones that like to trick you and
things
bully
like astral parasites and stuff. That's is sort of another topic. Yeah. But are those really spirits, or are they just thought forms?
Yeah.
It's like you can get a thought form. If you're in a lower vibrational state, you'll get a thought form, but that's not really from the universe. Anything from the universe is going to be helpful and benevolent and wanting to help you, right? So that's just how it is. So stay in that sort of range, and that's what you'll get, right? So, but these spirits can help you with more specific things. Yeah. So, Hades is traditionally like the god of death, but he's also the god of wealth because, wealth in this form of minerals and gold and such is underground. Mm-hmm. And he was, the god of the underworld. So he was the god of wealth. And as that aspect, that's sort of what I needed at the time to sort of uncover my own wealth and learn how to create that for myself.
And even those that have just died can help you get things too.
Oh, yeah.
I had that happen to me.
Mm-hmm.
Where I had a very good, she was my sitter, but she was really like a nanny to us.
Mm-hmm.
And when she died, I didn't have a job or anything. And we both, because I don't think you were working either, Melektoth, at the time.
No.
You weren't. And we were not doing that great financially. And I think she wanted to take care of that.
Yeah.
So, and I kid you not, on the day of her funeral, I got a notification that a certain church needed a substitute musician.
Yep.
So I did that for a month, and I had a break for a couple months. And then I got the job that I was doing for almost 2 years.
Yeah.
As the music director at a different church. And I swear she did it. She orchestrated the whole thing. I know she did.
Yeah.
And it was just like, wow.
Exactly.
And now that time is done because it's time for something bigger.
Yeah. Yeah. So, I mean, this happens all the time, and you're doing it all the time without even knowing. And again, these spirits are here to help you. If it comes from the universe, from universal energy, either light or dark, it's here to help you, right? That's always the case. That's always the. If you find something that is malevolent, that does not want to help you, it is a thought form. It is a thought form created by humanity. It's a thought form. If you find a real spirit with real universal essence flowing through it, it is benevolent, and it will help you.
That's so cool.
In its own way that it can. So that is the rule. That is how it works, because the universe is here to support you. You are, I've said, the center of your own universe. You are at the center of things. You are the one that is helping to expand the universe. You know, this is where it all happens. So yes, they will want to help you, whether they're angels or demons or whatever. Now, again, they have different specializations. You might not go to Hades to get help with love. I mean, that might, unless you want to kidnap Persephone, but I mean...
I don't think he'd be very thrilled with you.
You know, or whatever, like, trick someone into the underworld. I mean, like, if you want to do that, maybe, but...
Better write your own fantasy book, because that will happen.
But you might go to Aphrodite, or you might go to even a demon that's for love. Astaroth.
Lilith, maybe?
Lilith is good.
Astaroth.
Lilith is more for, like, lust, I think. Or whatever. I mean, they could be, but that's getting complicated. But, you know, they have specializations, right? Just like Elinara said earlier, you wouldn't go to a mechanic to get, you know, plumbing done.
No.
Right? That just wouldn't happen, even if the mechanic's a saint.
Yeah, I never said he was
It was just, I just lost the transition. I'm just joking.
You shouldn't have. I was very clear.
I know. It's my fault.
Yes, it is.
Okay. I'm just picturing a saint mechanic plumber.
There could be. I don't know.
Anyway.
We should look now. I'm curious.
So, you know, you'll go to a specific spirit that can specialize in that thing, or they will come to you as Hades came to me. Now, I think I was on the lookout for someone. Just in general, I was sort of on a more pagan path, and I was just, okay, I just want a god to work with, or a goddess, or whatever. And actually, I really thought at the time...
It'd be Hecate.
Hecate or Athena I always really liked, too. And I really thought it'd be one of those, but it wasn't. I was surprised. And this is how you know this stuff is real, because it's not just according to your expectations, you know. If I just said, yeah, it's Hecate, and then she said, yeah, sure, whatever, and she worked with me. But no, it was Hades, and I was really surprised.
Yeah, you did. It's not like you knew much about him.
I knew nothing about him, besides he was the god of the underworld.
And I'm like, how did it even come? I don't even know how it even happened.
I honestly don't remember.
I wish I did.
It wasn't a ritual or anything, it just happened.
No, I know.
It just showed up and, hey. I don't think he said hey, but...
He could have.
He's a tiny bit more formal than that. A lot more formal than that. Hades is cool, he's formal.
Well, just like you
just
are.
Just like I am, yes. So, you're getting me off track here.
I know.
So... You know, that is what the spirits can do. And if you're open, they will come to you. And sometimes you'll have, I've mentioned this before, sort of a patron spirit or patroness spirit, either for life or for a time. And they will guide you and help you. And it might be a more sort of jack of all trades, like Elinara said before, or just someone who has a more generalized skill set. Like Lucifer is great for a lot of things, because he's great with, you know, gaining knowledge. He's the enlightener, the liberator. And so with giving knowledge, with, you know, helping you to be free, because he's also really big into freedom, that kind of stuff. And so that brings me into the final topic, which is, you know, angels, demons, what's the difference? Or light gods, dark gods, what's the difference? You know, and I did mention last time how a lot of demons, probably most, maybe all, were previously gods who were then demonized. And so that is a lot of it. But there are, you know, dark beings. And again, that does not mean evil. It just means dark. Dark meaning of the essence of expansion and asking for more and wanting more. Now, these beings, I think why a lot of people are afraid of these beings is because desire is sort of terrifying to a lot of people. Because pure desire, so I said there's no right or wrong. Let's say your desire is to be polyamorous and just to have a lot of different relationships. Now, to a traditional moral compass, let's say Christian or Muslim or whatever,
Muslims have more than one wife.
But let's say unmarried.
Okay.
Or even, let's say, Hindu or something. That is going to be wrong to them. But to the universe, no judgment. And if that feels good to you, this is what I mean, but there's no right or wrong, there's no good or evil. if that feels good to you, if that brings joy to you, then there's a being or the universe itself that will be more than happy to help you get that, right?
Yeah.
And this is when a lot of people go to Lilith or something, bring her
Yeah.
back into the equation. So, or whatever your desire is. But a lot of demons will work with these sort of, they'll work with all desires, but, you know, they also work with these desires that are sort of against the moral code of these popular religions. So lust, you know, greed, but what is greed but just wanting money? Even if you say, I like money, I love money, I want money, you're greedy. You know, the want of abundance, is that greed or is it just wanting abundance? Maybe if you hoard it, but that's not in alignment with the universe, but just wanting abundance, money's awesome. So greed, you know, different things like that to, let's say, to a Christian or to, you know, the 7 deadly sins, which I don't remember all of them, but would be wrong, right? But there's no good or evil. So demons are, again, from the darkness, and they're the ones who are going to help you to reach for your desire. So Lucifer will help you reach for knowledge and freedom. A really good example is Belial will help you to reach for also freedom, but he's really good at helping. Let's say if someone's, this kind of brings in the moral issue again. Let's say you get into some legal trouble, and it's very, very common for people to turn to Belial. Now, again, someone might say, oh, if you're in legal trouble, then wouldn't the just thing be for you to go to jail or get fined or whatever? There's no justice. This is why I mentioned morality earlier. There's no justice. There's no justice. It's just whatever feels good to you. And if it doesn't feel good for you to pay a fine or go to jail, then why should you? There's no sense of justice in the universe. Doesn't exist. Doesn't exist. And so if you're in legal trouble and you call it to Belial, whatever reason you might have gotten in trouble, he'll be like, yeah, sure. That's one of his specialties.
Even if you killed someone?
I mean, I've probably.
Yeah.
Again, there's no justice.
True.
There's no justice. And so who said you had, you know, let's say you do that, but, which I'm not condoning, obviously, but let's say you do that and then you sort of realize, and oops, you know, that wasn't good, and you want to naturally work on your own emotional state and do it in a more healthy way. What does it serve besides just revenge from the people who were hurt or the families of those who were hurt?
Yeah.
To go to jail or to be punished. And I mean, jail here, this is a whole other topic, but is really just about punishment and making people feel good who were victimized, right? It's not really, if it were about rehabilitation, I'd be more in favor of it, but it's not.
And it should be, because they're just putting you away, not doing anything about it. They're just
locking you up, you know.
Isn't it in Europe they do it differently?
Yeah, I've heard that. But if you're locked up, I mean, you're more likely to go back to jail if you've been there once, so it really doesn't do anything. Anyway, that's a whole other topic. But, you know, Belial will help with those sorts of things. But demons will help with any desire. Now, I'm not saying you have to call specifically on demons. Just having a desire is a demonic, dark urge that everyone has. If someone doesn't have it, they're lying, okay? They're lying. Everyone has the urge for more, to ask for more, to be eager for more. And that's dark. That's sort of demonic. Now, angels are those who will help with the flow. They will help you to surrender, to be effortless, to flow with the Tao, to unite with the universe, to come into alignment. So if you have a lot of resistance, I just don't know how to give up this resistance, then, let's call in an angel, and they will help you. And their aura, their presence is one of great peace.
Yeah.
Okay? And so they are of the light, and they will help you to flow and to heal and to, you know, to just to come into alignment with all that is, with the universe. And so, you know, very different. Again, two sides of the same coin. Demons can seem very dark in the way that they're about desires. Angels can seem very light, and they are light in the way of they help you to flow. But they're both needed because that's satisfied with what is, which is the more angelic side, and eager for more, which is the more demonic side, light and dark. And so, you know, and the same thing goes for light gods and dark gods. You know, if you work with, I don't know, let's say Zeus or something, or Apollo or something like Athena, very light beings.
Zeus is light?
Well, technically. Yeah, he has flaws, but that's the thought form part. Jupiter's a great example. Jupiter. But if you work...
Aries.
Aries?
Aries and Jupiter are the same.
No, they're not.
Oh, no.
Aries is Mars.
My God. Never mind. I'm bad at Greek and Roman.
Hades is more dark. I would consider Aries more dark because it's like war.
Yeah, that's what I know.
I would consider, some of those beings darker. Even Hecate is dark. Aphrodite, she's generally seen as light, but she's all about love and getting love.
She'll do what she has to do.
Exactly. So, it's a little more blurry with gods, but that's sort of how it goes. But
Apollo is one of my favorites.
Yeah, very light being. But, these light and dark beings, you can use them, you can work with them to get what you want, to flow and then to reach for more. So these two sides are needed. And let's say you work with Hades because he knows how to get money, or you work with Lucifer because he knows how to, bring you more knowledge, or you work with whoever. I'm just naming examples. But that is what you can do. You don't have to. You can work with the whole universe. But if you want specialization, then you can work with a certain being. Now, there are lots more things we can say about this, about, how to resonate with these beings and how to reach out to them and what to do if they come to you. Yeah, it could be another one. But, there's lots more that can be said about this. But this is, I dare not say the basics. We've been talking about this for, in total, 2 hours between the two podcasts. But this is sort of an introduction to light and dark, to gods, angels, and demons, to spirits of all kinds, to energy, to thought forms, to egregores, the whole thing. And so I do hope it makes sense. I do hope that this sort of clarifies for you the role of these different beings, angels and demons and gods, and some people will say devils. That doesn't really exist as such. Satan exists, but he's not evil. Anyway, but all these different beings, and that they all have a place to play, a role to play in this whole act of creation. Flow and striving and reaching, and flow and effortlessness and asking for more. It's just this ebb and flow of the universe, of this energy, and they both have a part to play in it. So I hope that this makes sense to you. If you do want to go deeper with this, yes, there is deeper. I promise there's always deeper. You can check out our print newsletter, The Circle of Darkness, which goes out every month and will be going out in a few weeks. And so you can get that at darkascent.org/circle. So I thank you for listening. If you want to see our show notes, leave a comment, let us know what you thought, ask your questions. You can go to darkascent.org/DA010. So with that, I really hope you have a wonderful week. We will see you next Friday for another episode of the Dark Ascent podcast.
Bye, everyone.
Bye, everyone.